fiction, science fiction. We make no guarantees, however, how long it will remain fiction, fiction, fiction.
Sandman, salutations to all you cognonauts out there. Another episode of Exofathom. I am Nick, and I am joined, as always, by my two lovely co-hosts. Mike, how you doing?
Not too bad. Just, another Monday.
Another Monday, indeed. And we have Ayla. How are you, Ayla?
I'm doing fine. I think there was a glitch when Mike was speaking. So when he said Monday, it sounded like just another moan day. And I was like, lots of Monday moans and groans. The first of the new
Monday
year.
moans.
There's
Yeah.
on my end, there's a bit of cutting in and out.
Yeah, I think it's my internet is having a little bit of issue right now, but hopefully it'll settle in. There's a little bit of droppage. Ayla, could you say something one more time just so we get the mic to settle
One
in?
more time.
Hey, all right, that sounds better. All right, cool. Well, thanks so much, you guys, for joining us. We very much appreciate it. We hope you're having a wonderful evening and happy Monday, or anytime you're listening to us. We very much appreciate you. Tonight, I wanted to talk about something that came across my plate, I think, listening to a podcast a week ago. And it was an offhanded remark by some guy that was mentioning it. He mentioned in the context of conspiracy theories or sort of like mythologies that people don't really know a lot about. And he mentioned this one called the Dream Man. And the name sort of perked me up. And I thought to myself, oh, I wonder what that's all about. So I did a little bit of investigation. We're going to go into the sort of modern internet lore of what the Dream Man is, and perhaps talk about some mythological analogs to somebody who can travel through dreams. Now, I'm going to preface all of this first by saying this originally started as a guerrilla marketing campaign. So I can't affirm any of the validity about these speculations. And for most people listening, they'll probably agree that this is just a hoax. But if you're keen on suspending a little bit of disbelief, and on Exofathom, that is what we try to do, perhaps you'll find this intriguing as well. But before we get started, I wanted to ask my lovely co-hosts one question, and that would be, if you could invade anyone's dream, what would you do?
Terrify them. Just turn into a nightmare.
Oh, okay. Anything in particular?
Maybe. So I've been having some trippy dreams the past couple of days. So I guess I would drop them in complete darkness and then put somebody else into their dream. Like, it doesn't have to be a real person, like a fictional brother or sister or something like that. And then in that like pitch blackness have a devour their head, and then my whole head turn into an eyeball that's just blinking in the pitch blackness. Wow. I think that would terrify somebody.
I think that would terrify most people, to be honest.
Honestly.
Yeah. Ayla, what would you do? Are you gonna go the nightmare route?
No. As somebody who has lots of nightmares, I don't think I want to be responsible for that. I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, you can just influence anyone's dream.
Yeah, imagine that you had the ability to walk into somebody's dream and sort of control it as you would see fit. Like kind of like what Mike is talking about and demonstrating, like turning it into a nightmare specific ways.
Yeah, I think I would probably create like a little psychotherapy business or something. So like people who daydream or haven't reached their dreams, or maybe they're like insecure or something, right? Like give them dreams where they're like super awesome, and then let them see what happens, because like people often dream about stuff and then they get it and it's like not right, like it's not on mark, it's close but not really. So I think to be able to like let people seize their dreams in their dreams and realize that their dreams aren't quite their dreams so that they can get closer to their dreams.
Wow, that's a lot of dream in there. Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Don't let them.
So sort of like a dream therapy sort of thing, or maybe like a dream life coach.
There it is. Yeah, that'd be a great business. I'd hire me. Be like, let's see what Ayla does in this hypothetical setting number A.
So much power.
So much power. Yeah.
I mean, if you give me that business, I'm just here just making nightmares come true.
Yeah.
Right.
Just traumatizing
the
people.
Opposite. Well, we would be like, no, I totally see Mike and I like having competing shops, right? But like he'd be right across the street from me and he'd be peddling his nightmares, like, live through your worst nightmare and see how strong you are. And then I'd be like, live your best dream and see what you learn, and like we'd be total competitors. I could see it.
I'd be way more popular during Halloween though. That's where my business would pick up.
That's true.
Seasonal. Though, I'd clean up.
The dream market is seasonal. All right. Well, that's something we can glean from that.
What about you, Nick?
That's okay. I mean, it is a good question. I don't know. I mean, like it would be kind of cool to do something scary. That would be fun. But I could also see it as like one of those, like Doctor Strange moments. You just like tap their forehead and send them into like the fifth dimension, and like just a kaleidoscope of probabilities and manifestation and all of that. That would be kind of cool. At least that's what I would like anyways. Somebody could do that to me. I would do it.
So open, such an open book, like so many possibilities.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed though.
You could get overwhelmed, or you could make contact with some sort of fifth dimensional entity.
Oh man, then you're responsible for fighting that fifth dimensional entity.
You're gonna need a waiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have to sign away your rights once you get into that space for sure.
In all dimensions. Could you imagine that contract?
In all dimensions in perpetuity. Yeah. I like it. But yeah, so I asked that question just to kind of get us in the mood of thinking about this sort of concept and character. I want to give a little bit of brief rundown about the origins of this meme in particular. And then we can talk a little bit about the ancient analogs for dream walkers and perhaps some of the explanations for why this particular phenomenon with the dream man may have happened. But first, I will open this and into the intro here. The origin of the dream man, or actually as he is known, and this isn't as catchy, his name is This Man, because the original photo that you saw at the beginning of this episode had the text, "Have you dreamed this man?" And so that became a sort of viral meme on the internet and started to spread around the internet forums and meme makers and stuff like that, and became sort of like a popular thing for a while. Eventually, people kind of got wise to it, and it became a debunked meme. But when it was first created, according to the website in 2008 by Italian marketer Andrea Natella, it was originally named "Ever Dream This Man?" ? And it was a person who claimed to have been repeatedly seen in dreams by the whole world since 2006, but was never found in the real world. And so Natella creates the site in 2008, but it wasn't until October 2009 that it gained attention from the mass press, online, and internet users. This man's notoriety spawned several internet memes that spoofed flyers of the website and references in films and television shows like The X-Files. Andrea Natella was then interviewed by Vice magazine, who took the myth seriously. And so thus Natella's answer was in seriousness, quote unquote. And they explained that the first time that he dreamed this man was before he pardon me. He dreamed about this man before he was aware of who he was, and that was around the winter of 2008. And this man in his dream invited him to create a website to find the answer about who he was. And so the following instructions is that he make a website that also produced the mysterious identikit, which is identikit, which is the image that you see, in order to sort of seed the character in the masses. So upon this man's initial widespread exposure, there was suspicion from not only online users, but blogs like ASSME or ASME and IO9 that it was actually a guerrilla marketing stunt. And they discovered that thisman.org was hosted by a same company that also hosted a site named guerrillamarketing.it, which is a fake advertising agency which designed subversive hoaxes and created weird art projects exploring pornography, politics, and advertising. Nonetheless, some of the sources presented the argument of it being a hoax as simply being one side of the discussion instead of the real fact. However, a 2010 post from the art agency website Kook, which Nutella became a partner of while this man was gaining traction, and a published paper wrote Viral K Marketing, finally confirmed that this man was not real, but rather a stunt. However, while Nutella admitted that thisman.org was simply a viral marketing ploy, he never revealed what it was promoting. However, some sources, including the Carmel, suggest that it was meant to promote a film by the same name that was supposed to come out in 2008. And if, let's see, even Nutella's confirmations of the coverage in the mid-2010s from the publication of Vice magazine. Vice contacted the site and Nutella answered questions as if the site was not a hoax. We already got to that point. But he also just said that the entire campaign was geared towards creating a movie by the name of This Man. But incidentally, and maybe mysteriously, the movie never came out. And so this kind of got me interested in what this guerrillamarketing.it was, what this sort of guerrilla marketing campaign could be. And I stumbled across the IMDb page for quote unquote this man, and there's no information on it. It's almost like it didn't exist in the first place. So I went to the site guerrillamarketing.it, and of course it's all in Italian. So I had to translate pages and using the Google translators. But what I could find, and basically, was that this marketing, and it's like a 2007 website. It's really, actually, I could probably show you guys a photo or a screenshot of it, just so you can get the scope of what a weird dead website this is. But yeah, I was reading through it, and I could see that they were heavily relying on guerrilla marketing, and some of their techniques were interesting, to say the least. But it also looks very strange. Now, this could just be because it's 2007, 2008, but it's still around, but it's like you can tell it's a dead site. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I was able to glean from this site and in my translations and stuff was that they create guerrilla marketing campaigns for mostly political purposes, which kind of sparked my interest because I'm thinking, how do I tie this into some sort of conspiratorial angle to keep the mythology of this man alive? And the only thing I could think of is that this was some sort of shell company that pushed out the disclosure of this fifth dimensional being, and that the guerrillamarketing.it was just some sort of front company to push this information out. But it's obviously a stretch.
I don't think it'd be the first time there's shell companies used for certain purposes like that, you know?
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I was thinking a little bit too. If I wanted to make this stretch into an actual sort of, spooky pasta, that perhaps these guerrillamarketing.it, which was responsible for the marketing campaign of the Dream Man, maybe puts out these viral marketing materials or what they call culture busting. Is that what they call it?
I wouldn't know.
Oh, you don't know. No, so it's a concept called culture busting, which they do like, mini displays of activism. So one of the examples I read on the website was that they would tie ribbons on like a chain link fence and then write like, war under construction on the ribbons or something like that. So like putting out these, like these sort of political messages through civil disobedient ways of doing things. But according to the narrative for this man, in January 2006 in New York. Yes. What's up, man? Sorry. Are you saying? I think I have a big lag here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. What was that?
I have no idea.
Obviously, someone doesn't want us talking about this.
No, it's just
Dream Man.
It's the Dream Man. It's just my internet is being really dumb right now. So I apologize if there's some hiccups in this one. But I wanted to get in.
You.
Yeah, somebody's hacking me. No, I uncovered a mass conspiracy. No, this is all just really silly stuff, but I wanted to get into the sort of like the narrative that was created with this image so that we can kind of see what maybe the reason why that it actually sort of struck a chord with people. So the history of this starts as that, and this is according to thisman.org, which is the official website. In January 2006 in New York, the patient of a well-known psychiatrist draws the face of a man that has been repeatedly appearing in her dreams. In more than one occasion, that man has given her advice on her private life, and the woman swears that she's never met this man in her life. The portrait lies forgotten on the psychiatrist's desk for a few days until one day another patient recognizes the face and says that man has often visited him in his dreams. He also claims that he has never seen that man in his waking life. And the psychiatrist decides to send the portrait to some of his colleagues that have patients with reoccurring dreams. And within a few months, 4 patients recognize the man as a frequent presence in their own dreams. All the patients refer to him as, quote unquote, this man. From January 2006 until today, at least 2,000 people have claimed that they have seen this man in their dreams in many cities all over the world: Los Angeles, Berlin, Sao Paulo, Tehran, Beijing, Rome, Barcelona, Stockholm, Paris, New Delhi, Moscow, etc. And at the moment, there is no ascertained relation or common trait among the people that have dreamed of seeing this man. Moreover, no living man has ever been recognized as resembling the man of the portrait by the people who have seen this man in their dreams. So my question to you guys, and again, we're suspending our disbelief here because this is all fairy tales, but do you think that there is a possibility that people would dream of the same person? And maybe that's a little bit loose of a question, but in the context of this type of phenomenon where you might have, a dozen people or maybe more dreaming about a very particular person. Do you think that that's possible at all? Or is that just something that's convenient for the story?
Ayla, you want to go first?
Oh, it's all you, Mike.
Yeah. It's actually highly probable.
Yeah.
Because when you do facial recognition, you're finding like the space in between faces when you're starting to build this stuff out. These have been lovely labeled eigen faces. They look a little horrifying. They actually look like, remember when there's that face on Mars that everybody said they saw? They look kind of similar to that, but basically what it is the space in between the spaces of hundreds of thousands of faces or tens of faces or hundreds of faces. And it makes sense that multiple people can kind of come up with an amalgamation of multiple faces they pass by every day and then dream of that face.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So even maybe it's just this sort of like, hodgepodge collection of characteristics that people see in their everyday life that they sort of make in their head. I would say that that's, certainly possible. I don't know if I can remember a face in my dreams, though. Can you guys?
Negative.
Negative.
I was going to say, too, to add to Mike's point, is that, like I've been watching some crime documentaries over the holiday break. So typically when they're trying to, get a witness to confirm the identity of a suspect, they do it against other possible, what do they call them? Unsubs or whatever. And so they'll have a lineup of different people and the witness has to pick one person out of the lineup. I wish that with this dreamy man situation, they had done something similar, because it sounds to me like, one, if you're seeing the same terrifying face in your psychologist's office day after day for like a couple weeks, I mean, not that you're going daily, but like, weekly, it would make total sense that it would creep into your subconscious. Or, even if you just saw it in the corner of your eye, be like, oh yeah, no, totally. So it could be some combination of exposure, like what Mike was saying, that kind of like amalgam of faces, or it could just also be the methodology of ascertaining these 2,000 people that might have made things wonky. But
right, yeah, for sure.
I definitely see faces in my dreams, but my ability to dream recall has grown exponentially in the recent times, because I've, for the most part, stopped smoking weed. That gives my dreams such vivid details that sometimes I'll have like smells, I'll have full conversations with things in my dreams. But seeing faces has become far more common. Yeah, like recently I had a dream of people that I knew in my past, like from high school and things like that. But they didn't look like people from my high school. They looked like they aged. And I don't know, maybe I was like scrolling through like Facebook one day and I just came across their profile picture and kept scrolling.
Right.
And that kind of got stuck in my subconscious. But it's not uncommon for me, at least, to remember a face very well from a dream.
Yeah. I think I've mainly maybe, I mean, it's so hard when you try to think about dreams, they sort of just slip out of your memory the moment you try to think about them too hard. So I next time I dream and sort of remember it, I'll try to make a note of faces and see if I can make out definition well enough.
Draw a face really quick.
Yeah, just draw a face when I wake up. It's this guy's face. Jesus. But I think Ayla made a really good point, and this is what I was really kind of trying to tie all together, because it does seem to me that like one of those chicken or egg situations. Like, okay, so we know that this original campaign was a hoax, but ever since that hoax came out, there are people that say they do dream of a man that looks like this. And so I think Ayla makes a good point about this sort of suggestibility that we have in our everyday lives, and how that might be really impressionable on us as well. Perhaps these people have scrolled through the internet and saw this guy's face randomly and then had a dream about them and just didn't put the pieces together. But I do think that there is a level of like suggestibility that we all have when it comes to images and kind of implanting ideas and memories into the head. And I think that this is what this guerrilla marketing campaign really demonstrates beautifully, is that, yes, this started off as a hoax, but that's almost not the point anymore. The point is that you've implanted an image into people's dreams.
Absolutely. I think familiarity is something that we see a lot in marketing. Case in point, there's this like skincare line called True Botanicals, I want to say. And I remember seeing an ad for it and I was like, that looks expensive. Skip. And I scroll through it. And then I see it again and I'm like, skip. And then I see it a third time. This time Olivia Wilde is like, this is my skincare routine. I was like, that's cool. Skip. By the fourth time, I was like, okay, what the F is this stupid thing, right? So I'm like toggling through it. And
Finally
I'm
click
like,
it.
I finally click it. Yeah. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is like all natural. It's got like yada, yada, yada. You know, like you just kind of skim through it. And then you look at the price and you're like, forget that. But because I clicked on it, it was coming up like double time. And I'm seeing it like every time I log in, not just to Facebook, but on Instagram and all this stuff. So then it pops along and all of a sudden now there's a discount. And I'm like, well, it's a discount. I mean, why not? Why not try it? You know, and so like I'm so susceptible to that like familiarity kind of thing because by that point, now it's like, oh, well, I've seen this a bunch of times. Like this must be a thing. And then like 2 years of that, I finally broke down and I was like, all right, for that price, I will try it. But I think that that's an interesting thing is that repetition creates this like proximal comfiness that then gives you the opportunity to like open a bridge. And that might just be what it is you see it enough times. There's this mental bridge that connects your, you know, consciousness to this thing, you know, that's primed as being like a dream-based human.
Yeah, certainly. I definitely agree with you. I think that the familiarity can sort of generate the result that you're looking for.
Yeah, it'll creep up on you.
Well, and we've had many conversations in the past few weeks about thought forms and you know how thoughts have physical or metaphysical power.
Do you think it's a tulpa?
Well, I mean, but I guess that's my question to you guys. Do you think that even if the origins of this individual or being were from a sort of manufactured origin, do you think that it's possible that by the collective energies of many people dreaming about this individual, are they creating this individual on some other plane?
Ooh, I don't know.
Energy has to go somewhere.
It's got to go somewhere for sure. Yeah. I think it would be interesting to consider.
And if tulpas can be powerful enough to create things in our reality like corporations and stuff like that, why wouldn't it, like that first step has to be creating it in some abstract space, in that fifth dimensional space. So why wouldn't it create a real entity in that fifth dimensional space?
Right.
Well, you know, you could even think about this this dream man as like you could draw a parallel to like, I don't know, Mickey Mouse. Like, have you ever gone to the Disney store with a kid and the way they just like lose it over Mickey? They're like, oh my God. And like, you know, collectively, we went a little insane for this nothing. I mean, it's nothing. It's a creation from one person's head to everybody else's head. And the first person, primary person said, you want this. This is cute. This is funny. This is entertaining. And then everybody just agreed. And then collectively we were like, yeah, this is amazing, you know, but like it never existed before somebody just came up with it, you know. I'm sure it was stolen from somebody else who came up with it. But, you know, like I was just thinking like, you're right. Like the power of people to take something and then just run with it. It's pretty impressive. You kind of just pause.
Too.
Yeah, major advertising.
Well, Mickey Mouse became an image, I think it was in the 70s. More people recognize the image of Mickey Mouse than Jesus.
Stop. That's real?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So advertising does have this amazing power over us. And I've even noticed it too, because I went a long time without like seeing commercials. So I don't have a TV, and anything that I pay for is supposed to be ad free. But like going back and watching ads, there's such a strange little thing that can cause that mind virus. You know, so it can, so it can stick that image of it's almost like a hypnotic thing, a hypnotic power, where it can stick that image into your mind and cause you to dream about it, even if you probably just hear it only once.
Yeah. And, thinking on Jesus, there's so many different iterations of him that the repetitions wouldn't be consistent like they are with Mickey Mouse. Like with him, it's the same Mickey everywhere you go.
You
Or the
notice that
same
we don't have a
component.
ginger Jesus.
Well, 2022, time for a ginger Jesus.
Yeah.
I heard something like gingers. This is like an article I read
What,
recently.
they don't have souls or something?
No, they actually have like higher pain tolerances. So if you're a ginger or a ginger who's about to go into surgery, it's like you gotta I don't know, ask about that and just have them check it because you might need more
you generally need more general anesthesia if you have red hair than otherwise.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
I
don't
think
know
it's just
where I
because
saw
it
that,
comes
but-
from the Irish, and the Irish drink a shit ton.
Right.
So they've just over
Right.
time, they've just steeled their genes against intoxicants.
Oh my god. Oh dear.
But yeah, and so this man has definitely sort of taken the internet, back in 2008 and
Wait,
9.
do you mean this man or this man?
I don't know the difference.
Well, because
I'm not talking about myself in the
no,
third
I
person.
know, I know. But you said he's known as this man. But when you were
Yes.
talking about him, referring to him, it was like this man. And I was like, I don't know. Are you talking about some
This
man?
man or this
Or this
man?
man? Yeah. It just
I don't know.
I
I've lost
had a
myself.
flashback to Animaniacs, the Who. Anyway, Sarah,
Right.
those who know. But carry on.
Who's
This
on
man.
first situation over here?
Yeah. No, I just wanted to get into, since we're on the topic of somebody who might be able to travel through dreams. I thought I definitely wanted to reach out into the mythology and look into deities or creatures that might have the same sort of abilities. And if you guys think of any in particular, also from the ones that I'm going to name here, let me know, because I was having a hard time. It feels like it's a bigger thing than it is.
Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah, that's a good one. Queen Mab.
Well, that's
from Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, but Midsummer Night's Dream, they talk about a entity that will, come into your dreams and plant desires and things like that. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and I think that probably came from the mythology of one of the characters that we're going to talk about right now, which is the red pill or the blue pill, good old Morpheus. For those that like The Matrix and didn't know, Morpheus was named after the Greek god of dreams.
Oh.
Yeah, and I believe his name, it was comes from the word morph, which means to shift. And Morpheus belonged to a category of entities called, I'm going to mispronounce this, so I apologize. They're called the Onieros. I believe that's called Onieros, which are like a sub-level of deity within the Greek pantheon. Mother was, they were created by Nyx, which was the goddess of darkness, and I forgot the other one. Hypnos, that's the one, the god of sleep, which makes sense.
What's the god's name again? Nyx?
NYX is the goddess of darkness.
So you're Nick over here influencing us with this episode about this creature, and you somehow coincide with this other thing. I don't know. It's a little suspicious.
I don't know what you're trying to insinuate, but I'm offended.
Wow, you being so defensive is going to make me curious.
I know, right? Pay no attention. No, so Morpheus comes from, and his sort of subcategory, he had 5 brothers. And we won't get into them because actually they don't play a huge role in Greek mythology. And Morpheus is only mentioned once in Greek mythology, and that is in the Ovid, I believe. But his parents were Hypnos, which is the spirit of sleep, and then Nyx, which is the primordial goddess of the night. One of his brothers was Thanatos, the personification of death. And so in the one passage where Morpheus sort of appears, he's appearing to the queen. her name is Ceyx, or I believe that's Ceyx. And her husband, Alcyone, I don't know how to spell or pronounce these names, but her husband was a king who went to war and then died in a shipwreck on his way back to his wife, Ceyx. Ceyx is waiting and waiting and waiting for her husband to return, so much so that Hera actually takes pity on Ceyx and sends Morpheus down into her dreams to describe or to communicate to her that her husband is dead. But what Morpheus does, and what's in particularly cool about Morpheus, is that he is the only one of the Onariuses that can take the place or shapeshift into a human. So the rest of his brothers can only shapeshift into like animals or plants or trees or other things like that. He is the only one that can actually shapeshift into a human figure. So he shapeshifts into her husband, but he's wet and blue, and he tells Ceyx, the wife, that he has passed on. And when Ceyx awakens, she's so distraught with grief that she throws herself into the sea and dies. Just a fun little Greek story for you guys.
So
Greek
fun.
stories are always like that.
They are always like that.
Uplifting.
Very uplifting. Yeah.
Uplifting.
Yeah. But that's the only mention of Morpheus in all of Greek mythology, and that comes from the Ovid, which is subsequently actually it's later in the Greek mythology than like the rest of the pantheons. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting sort of deity, because they make a distinction to say that Morpheus was the only one that could take human form, and I thought that was peculiar, because I don't know why they would make that such a special thing. But perhaps, like, why is it so unique to be able to take a human form in a dream, as opposed to his brothers who only took like animal forms and plant forms and stuff? Do you think it's just the ability to send a message?
The trust as well. Like you're completely, for the most part, you're completely trusting in your dreams until something starts to change, where that's when it like can become a nightmare or something like that, right? But if for the most part, you're just completely, there's no doubt that who you're talking to is the person that you're talking to.
Yeah, it's kind of like Contact, right? And Jodie Foster's father comes, they take the aliens take the shape of Jodie Foster's father in order to
Communicate.
Right.
Put her at ease. Well,
Yes,
I just like how and I like how she does travel, but then everybody on Earth is like, no, it was a total failure. And she's like, no, I totally, and they're like, nah. And she's like, no, like
she's just going to be crazy for the rest of her life.
Yeah, no. And I thought that was a really cool thing that they did in that film. But as you were talking, you mentioned Hypnos, or one of the brothers.
Hypnos is the father of Morpheus.
Oh,
and then one of Morpheus's brothers is Thanatos, who's another Onarius, which is the god of death. Yeah,
and I find it interesting only because, like, all of our lingo today, right? Much of it originates in these Greek mythologies. So the way that the mythology influences like our current sort of like understanding about things, and how like there's so many other mythologies around the world, and how if we had incorporated all of them, how varied our understanding of ourselves and our minds would be today. Like, I don't know, I was just thinking about that. Like, give it some time, we might have some new mythology entering the fold.
Well, yeah, and I would argue that something like this, which is sort of like a meme, becomes the sort of modern mythology. I mean, how many stories can a meme tell? And not even just the direct story that it's presenting, but the use of that meme, whatever. I think that those things do become sort of modern mythologies, for sure. Memes, yeah. Memes.
You'll like dreamwalkers, or the whole idea of it. There's also a lot of prophets that get messages through dreams, right? And then you have the Aboriginals, like we've talked about this before too. So when the Aboriginals in Australia, the dream world to them is real. There's other traditions where this is true as well, where our spirit leaves the body and joins another world. So in those cases, that this man, the dream man, is a real thing.
Yeah. I definitely think that the Aboriginal communities and folklore have something right about that, because at the end of this, I'll show you guys an article from Psychology Today that basically is talking about how the dream world and the real world, there's no difference at all. At least to our brains, it doesn't matter that,
Have you ever had a dream that felt so real?
you thought you could just
Oh man,
real?
What is real?
How do you define real? Sorry, I could quote that movie.
But yeah, no, that I think too. There's just something creepy about dreams, because the usual rules don't apply, or we expect the same rules of reality, but the second they get broken, we usually get terrified or we freak out. I don't know if you've lucid dream a lot of times or not, but if you try lucid dreaming, you'll start to notice, at least at the edges of like, I've only done it maybe a handful of times, but the edges of my dreams are like these shadowy type beings that like, I just call them hitchhikers, because they feel like they don't belong in that dream per se. So those might be the types of entities too that come down from a fifth dimensional plane that just jump from dream to dream.
Right.
There might even be something like a Morpheus, something that we can't really define because we don't know, or just chooses to stay in the shadows and just observe our dreams.
Right. Or eat them. Maybe they're eating your dreams. Like the next character that we're going to talk about.
I was just like, what, are you going to talk about? Some Pokemon? We're going to talk about...
I love, man. That was one of my favorites. Hypno. Yeah, he was dope.
I always liked Psyduck, especially in the movie where like everybody just had to cater to him. And I forget.
Was my favorite Pokemon as a kid, Psyduck, because I always had migraines growing up.
It's very high maintenance.
Like if I could get psychic powers through that migraine, that would have been amazing.
It'd be better than just a migraine, that's for sure.
Yeah.
True that.
But no, I wanted to talk. And Ayla, you did mention that earlier about this concept of how we pay heed to so much of like sort of Western mythologies and not necessarily look into mythologies from around the world and how that might affect our outlooks on life. And I agree, definitely. And that's why I was glad to see that there was a Chinese and Japanese sort of folklore about dream eaters as well. In this instance, they're called the Baku. They're also otherwise known as the dream eaters, but they're a mythological being of Chinese and Japanese folklore, which is said to devour nightmares. The Baku cannot be summoned without caution, however, as ancient legends say that if the Baku is not satisfied after consuming the nightmare, he may also devour one's hopes and dreams. The tales of the Baku devouring nightmares originated in Chinese folklore and later appeared in Japanese folklore between the 14th and 15th centuries in what is known as the Muromachi period. While the Baku is a spiritual being, it has a well-defined appearance. It takes on the form of a chimera, a mythological beast comprised of a variety of parts of other animals. And the Baku is typically depicted with a bear's body, an elephant's nose, a tiger's feet, an oxen's tail, and a rhinoceros's eyes. And according to the legend, the Baku was created by the spare pieces that were left over when the gods finished creating all other animals.
Why isn't there a movie about this?
That's pretty cool. That would be a cute kids movie.
Yeah.
The Baku. But I do like the last line there, the spare pieces of all other animals. And so we were talking a little bit about the amalgam, right? How we might amalgamate features of people or entities in our dreams. And so I think that that's kind of a really nice little correlation to the mythology and how we actually format dreams as well. We sort of take bits and pieces of what we see in our regular lives and smash them all together into this sort of dreamscape or being, or
I'm pretty sure if this is a dream, then the platypus is a form of Baku.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. The platypus is a living
tulpa,
Baku.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like the concept too that like if you summon the Baku to eat your nightmare, he might not be satisfied with just the nightmare. You might want to eat your hopes and dreams too.
No.
That sounds great to me, because like how many times have hopes and dreams have gotten in your way of life, got in the way of living? Those darn hopes and those darn dreams weren't there.
Damn hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Monty Python sketch with the guy that eats all the food and then explodes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be you with the Baku. You'd be like, here are all my hopes and dreams, Baku. Just make it explode.
He's just like, I only came here for your nightmares. I'm like, well, you screwed up coming
That's
here.
right.
Let me tell you.
Joke's on you, buddy. I don't have any.
Nope. Some spring cleaning.
That's right. But man, the eyes of a rhinoceros, that is very specific.
It is.
I don't even know what
mean,
the eyes of a
are
rhinoceros
there rhinoceros in Japan or China? Do they have them? I thought where
an African animal? I don't know. That's a good question. Why is there? Maybe there were Asian rhinoceros.
Yeah, they tend to hang out in South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Kenya.
Well,
There might have been
14
Asians, like
14,
Asian
15.
strains.
Yeah, but also too just 14th, 15th centuries. I mean, by that time,
There was travel.
there's trade. I think you already had. When was the Silk Road around? Like the original Silk Road?
Oh yeah.
Because then you would have heard stories about these beings already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you probably would have had like tapestries and textiles and stuff that might have rhinoceros print on them being exchanged and all that.
And you're right. There are Asian rhinos. There are 3
okay.
species that have been pushed to the brink of extinction. Well, hopes and
Unfortunately,
dreams. That's
yeah.
sad.
Most animals on this earth go extinct, so don't worry.
Yeah, but we don't usually grind up their penises to make tonics. So
Hey, look, humans are weird creatures.
Very
They
weird,
eat
yeah.
other humans to try to get the same thing, the
Right.
same effect as well. Okay.
So would you rather mummies?
mummies, yeah.
Oh my
I'd
god.
rather just live
Humans grind up.
naturally.
Yeah, right. How about we grind up nothing? Oh man.
But yeah, so that's the story of the Baku. And then the last sort of folklore mythology entity that I want to talk about is, of course, is the Sandman. We've all heard of the Sandman, although it's kind of antiquated now. I don't think I hear much about the Sandman anymore.
There is
You
a
guys-
good
you?
comic book and song.
Yeah. Well, yes, yeah, definitely.
Mr.
But-
Sandman.
Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, but it seemed like the Sandman may have died out of popularity in the recent years. But he's a traditional character in many children's books and folklores, and particularly Scandinavian. But he's said to sprinkle sand or dust onto the eyes of children at night to bring on sleep or dreams. The grit or sleep in one's eyes upon waking up is supposed to be the result of the Sandman's previous work the night before, which is gross. Why are you pouring sand in my eyes, dude?
Yeah.
You have to go to sleep, all right?
Yeah, you can't wake up. And of course, no Scandinavian or Germanic folklore would be complete without a little bit of horror for the children. So E.T.A. Hoffman, who wrote the short story in 1816 entitled Der Sandman, which showed how sinister such a character could be made. According to the protagonist nurse, he threw sand in the eyes of children who wouldn't sleep, with the result of those eyes falling out and being collected by the Sandman, who then takes the eyes to his nest on the moon and uses them to feed his children. The protagonist of the story grows to associate this nightmarish creature with the genuinely sinister figure of his father's associate Coppelius, And in the Romanian folklore, there was a similar character called Ene the Elder. And so in Hoffman's version, Sandman is also similar to the French-Canadian character known as Bonhomme Sept, which is the 7 o'clock guy, who in some versions throws sand in children's eyes to blind them so he may capture them. Contrarily to the Sandman, this bag is the place where he traps the children who do not go to bed.
Sounds like the Hypnol, man.
Yeah.
It's awful.
I just love that.
Make kids go to sleep, though.
It is, right. The Sandman's going to throw sand in your eye and make them fall out. He's going to take your eyeballs to the moon and feed his children.
Oh, my God.
In Mexican tradition, it's like similar to La Llorona, where there's like, if you're outside alone and you're playing, this lady might kidnap you. And realize you're not her child and then boil you to death. So don't go outside alone. Don't talk to strangers.
There's something so quaint about the fear folklore. It's just like, especially the stuff that you tell kids, like, you know, the boogeyman or
I still don't
to behave.
Yeah, well, I still don't know how they were able to publish scary stories to read in the dark. Actually, that one got banned for a period of time, and then they brought it back. And I mean, I'm not a fan of banning books per se, but like it's not something you want to find at the book fair. I remember like our whole school, everybody bought that book and like passed it around, and collectively the entire school of children were like frightened for weeks.
Well, the illustrations were disturbing.
They were awful.
The illustrations are scary. I have all 3 volumes of those books. I still read them to this day.
Nice.
I almost watched the movie yesterday.
Yeah, I heard it was meh.
It probably is, but I'll tell you one thing: the Scarecrow, while it didn't animate yet, because I watched like 10 minutes, but I did see the Scarecrow while it was being just a scarecrow, and once that thing starts moving, I know I would be afraid. They did a good job on it. It was frightening.
The one that always got me was the story with the lady that was in the shower and the spider eggs hatch on her face. Out of her cheek, and she's just crawling down. And you see the image of it, and you're like,
You know, they have an adult version of that now too, and I think they did it on a Screen Time Continuum. Remember with Harry Potter pulling that worm out of his forehead? What was that movie?
Oh yeah, Jungle.
And that's based on a true story. Some guy got lost in the jungle, and then like he hit his head in the river, and then he was like lost for weeks and weeks. Eventually his head was like pulsating, and so he took like a knife and had to pull out worms that had like made a home in his gash wound. Oh my God. And don't get me started on bot flies. Like,
Jungle's gross.
Don't go to the jungle and get cut.
I'll tell you, I remember I did go to a jungle. I was in Costa Rica, and like I jumped in the river. I like was on the rapids. I went alone in cloud forests, and now I'm thinking back, like, good Lord, I could have. There were so many poison dart frogs that I didn't even know were poison dart frogs until
That's probably the best way to.
It is
to go there just completely ignorant, and you won't be scared, so nothing will happen to you. The second you start learning all these things, I think it increases the probability of.
You just Mr. Magoo your way through the jungle.
Yeah, you did actually. Oh, Mr. Magoo.
Okay, well, what were you
Would you want any of these things to be real? Like, would you want Morpheus to be real and be able to just take forms of certain humans? Because, like, I think about, like, deaths of, like, past family members, like loved ones and stuff. And if Morpheus could come down and take their form and just have a conversation, that'd be kind of cool. I'd be happy with that.
It would be cool. I mean, unless then you're like, hey, is this Morpheus? And he's like, you got me.
Yeah. You can't do that, though. You got to buy into it.
Right.
You know, that kind of makes me think about in New Age circles, people will talk about like guides and people that like they'll have dreams and they'll be like the same voice that comes to them. I don't know. Have you heard of people talk? I mean, this isn't something I've experienced, but like I've heard people talk about this before. And I wonder if it's something similar to that. Like, because to have a dream where there's like an external voice that you recognize to be like wise, right? Like it's giving you advice or wisdom or insight. That's very interesting when you break it down and unpack it in terms of like what's going on with the sleeping person. Where is this voice coming from? Is it their subconscious? Is it advice that they neglected to hear 2 years ago? You know, and then why does it have to manifest as the same voice or like wise person character repeatedly?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of well, I mean, we can jump into it. I think we can jump into sort of the explanations, and maybe this will explain maybe some of what you're trying to ask, Ayla. So there's a couple explanations for what the dream man could be, and more broadly what we're kind of talking about right now, which is this sort of the ability to have some sort of entities within the dream space that exist outside of just yourself and perhaps other people. Some of the explanations are that this is a religious theory, is that according to religious folk, the dream man is a form in which God manifests himself. There's also the dream surfer theory, is that he can enter people's dreams and sort of just kind of travel between dream and dream without any issues. But there's also the dream imitation theory, which is a theory that claims that a phenomenon has arisen causally and has progressively developed by imitation. When people are exposed to this man, they become so deeply impressed that they start seeing this man in their dreams. So that goes to that suggestibility angle that we had talked about at the beginning. So perhaps, you know, people are being suggested, especially when you're talking about the New Age movement sort of stuff, Ayla. You know, people are using the same sort of languages. They're using the same terminologies, talking about guides. You know, you could be ingesting all that information into your subconscious and then imitating it within your own dreams. She's just going to be quiet. You're on.
Oh, I was on mute. Yes, apparently. I was over here.
I'm just sitting here like, all right, well, I'm
glad you said something, because I was like responding, and then eventually I was like, you cracked it. I was getting all upset. But no, I mean, that makes total sense to me for sure.
The other explanation, which I think is a little bit more interesting, a little bit more down our alley, is the archetypal theory. Of course, Mike, being a student of Jung, will probably know that in his psychoanalysis, the theory suggests that this man is an archetypal image belonging to the collective unconscious that can surface in times of hardship and sensitive subjects. And so this relates to Carl Jung and Carl Jung's concepts of archetypes, which relate back to Plato and his concepts of forms. So I'm going to just read about forms real quick and Plato. So in 427 BC to 347 BC, which is when Plato was alive, he discussed forms, and he postulated that all objects have an ideal, quote unquote, form, quote unquote, or structure. In particular, he taught that these forms were pure or perfect objects of mathematical or otherwise conceptual knowledge. He felt that these pure forms existed only in the realm of knowledge and never in reality of human everyday existence. Individual things in the realm of appearance are beautiful only insofar that they participate in, correlate with, or approach in structure the universal forms of beauty. Carl Jung took the concepts of Plato's forms further and presented his own theory of archetypes. And so in Jungian psychology, an archetype is an unconscious idea, pattern of thoughts, or image, etc., inherited from the ancestors of the race of universally present in, ancestors of the race and universally present in individual psyches. In simple terms, we could basically refer to archetypes as an instinct. That is, in essence, an instinctual idea, pattern of thought, image, etc., inherited from ancestors of the race and universally presented in individual psyches. We now believe that the image of the ideal human face is indeed an archetype, and a subconscious image that we are born with and carry throughout our lives. This archetype has evolved in order to help us identify members of our own species and further sort members of our species according to their relative health and ability to successfully reproduce and to provide others resources to us and those who are close to us. So in short, long and short, there's perhaps, to answer your question, Ayla, there is what we're seeing in these new age movements that are talking about dreaming or having guides or whatever, is that what we're seeing is these Platonic forms in action, which we talked about in the Tulpa episode for sure, or the Jungian archetype, whichever way you prefer to look at it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it could totally be the thing, you know, I mean, who knows at the end of the day, but I like that. The sensible theory.
Okay, that's good. Nice.
What do you think, Mike?
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like if this is the face of God and, you know, forms kind of manifest beauty in some way, then the face of beauty should be equivalent to like the face of God or something like that. The most ideal form, even taking it in, which ends up being symmetrical and adhering to the golden spiral or something like that, right? I believe that's what ideal faces look like. So yeah, it all kind of follows and makes sense. I do kind of like the idea, though, that we have like a shared dream space. So like we're always dreaming in each other's dreams at all times. Like you see, like the Matrix, like just jack into it whenever. But the space is so big that we rarely come across each other or other people. But then you have this one person who's just constantly dreaming, who's like in a coma somewhere.
Right.
Like, when God's in a coma in Dogma.
Right.
In a coma somewhere. And all they do is traverse all these different dream spaces. So they end up being
stuck in the fifth dimension.
Yeah, they end up being in all these people's different dreams. I also kind of like that notion.
That's really cool. Yeah, I definitely like that as well. And I think, you know, like this concept of the Platonic forms too, like if you were just to think man, perhaps this is the face that your mind generates. Maybe for no reason, maybe for some subconscious reason. Maybe there's already enough subconscious energy towards the physical embodiment of this particular man. Or maybe this is just the mask that he's putting on right now, and he's the form of something completely different.
Yeah, the last one seems like to be the most fun. Because you can start to yell at it to take off its mask until...
Right. Show your true self.
Until it can or cannot.
Yeah. Well, that's a really cool idea. And I think we're going to be, well, I don't want to disclose too much because it's not in any sort of process yet, but let's just say Exofathom might create a graphic novel at some point. So, you know, we're going to have plenty of storylines to play with.
Oh, that sounds like some fancy work.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of fun. Yeah, it's going to be a little side project. But that's all I got for tonight, guys. It wasn't that long of an episode, but I hope that you guys enjoyed it. It's a little fun, silly thing that I thought just kind of brought up some concepts that we've touched on before, but just adding another little element of this modern sort of myth.
Yeah, the guerrilla marketing is going to be a form of myth telling.
I mean, yeah, why not?
Very effective.
They are very effective, definitely. And who's to say? I mean, like if mythology really is just about impact and memory over time, who's to say that it won't? You know, there won't be a guerrilla marketing tactic that is remembered 100 years from now.
ARGs,
definitely. Definitely. All right. Well, that's all I got for this evening. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you to Mike and Ayla for the conversation and for joining me this evening. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you want to leave us some feedback, please feel free to leave a comment or a like in our or a subscription would be even better. Although we are at 33 subs, and I think that that's kind of fitting for the channel. Would be nice to get more than 33.
We had 34 at one point. Somebody unsubscribed. I think it was a bot.
I think it was a bot. So,
but if it wasn't a bot, whoever you were,
yeah, we're gonna find you and we're going to shame you.
Gonna hunt you down in your dreams.
Yes, and scold you and give you a finger wagging. But yeah,
man. And if you don't go to sleep on time, we'll take your eyeballs and throw sand at you.
That's right. Yeah, and feed our children on the moon.
There it is. We'll feed Indy.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, you guys. We very much appreciate it. We hope that you have a wonderful evening, or whenever you listen to this. Please stay tuned for every Monday night at 8 p.m. We are coming with new episodes, new ideas, and it's a new year. So looking forward to really getting deep into some weird topics and continuing this trip. And until next time, Cognauts, you stay out there, and we will catch you on the next Exofathom. Good night.
Peace.
Later.